Welcome back to the IU427 garage, everybody. Today we're working on the prototype Mk4, and we're continuing to work on some of the aluminum panels. Alright, as we wrapped up our last video, we were placing the firewall into the car and working on that panel. And I think we may have had it clecoed in place. Now I'm going to show you a little trick, because I spent a lot of time out in the shop by myself and don't always have help. I've had to figure out ways to make things work and not smear silicone adhesive all over everything in the process of doing it. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I use when I'm putting on the firewall by myself, and I don't want to, again, get silicone sealant everywhere as I'm trying to get that panel placed. But as you can see, I've got the panel in place, and I've already started to rivet the black rivets. And what I do is I work from the sides towards the center, especially in a situation like this where I've got the engine in place. This wouldn't be my choice to have the engine in place, but I just don't have any room right now to pull it and to get it, out of the way. So we're just doing what we can to get things done on the car. So I'm working from the outsides in, and I've already got the other side all riveted into place, minus the one self-tapping sheet metal screw that's at the top. I'll go ahead and I'll replace that last. But here's what I do when I am trying to place this panel. So as you can see, these bars are much wider across the engine bay than they are in the front of the car. They taper open as you go towards the back of the car. So if you're trying to get this panel fit in here, you have to do a little bit of finagling to get it in there without bending the panel too much. And if you're trying to get it in place for the final time with the sealant on it, you don't want the sealant to touch the panel, then pull it away, and then find out that you've got sealant in an area where you're going to have to wipe it or clean it off. So what I do is I take a block like this, and I clamp it onto here. So let me grab my clamp, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like from the other side. Alright, so I've got the block clamped in place. You can see it right there. And I've got it projecting out into the engine bay of the car. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to hold the panel up while you negotiate the panel in place. So over on this side, you can see I've got it sticking way out past this side. It doesn't need to stick out this far, but it makes sense at this point just to give yourself a little bit of cushion so that you don't have an issue trying to get it fit. But it'll actually rest on here as you're fitting the panel in place. It's a lot easier, again, without the engine in place, because you can actually get this panel to come underneath, this frame member here and this frame member here, and then you can slide it into the pocket over on the driver's side where it's got the single sheet metal screw right now. That's the way I put it in. So what I'll do is I'll actually go to that side of the car and I'll slide it in this way towards the passenger side underneath these. I'll get it to set on top of there, and then I'll slowly get it in place against the firewall supports where it's going to stay. And then I'll put that single screw in from that side and then slowly push everything into the silicone sealant. And then what I'll do is I'll start with my clecos from the center. So I'll start with the clecos in the center, and I'll just add them all the way out. Now I let this sit with the clecos on it overnight so that the silicone is all dry. It's the next day. And I'm able to just start from this side and work my way into the center as I'm placing my rivets and taking out the clecos. So I guess if you're doing this without powder coated panels, it probably doesn't matter, because you can just leave the silicone if you get any on anywhere else, and you can just roll it off with your finger, clean it up with some acetone, and no big deal. Even with powder coat, as rugged as powder coat is, you don't want to be going over the powder coat with acetone or lacquer thinner or any type of cleaner, because it will dull the surface. and that is even for the matte finish on the powder coat. So you really don't want to be attacking it with any type of cleaner or solvent that's going to take that finish off of the surface of the powder coat. But so I'm working on that, and I think what I'm going to work on next is I'm going to work on getting the panel for the front of the footbox here exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to throw some silicone in the back here where the flat part of the mounting plate is, just as an extra layer of sound deadening so that the panel will never rattle or anything like that. And then I'll probably place the carrier bearing in here. I'll probably run a screw in to hold our clutch adjuster in. And then I may even run a couple of bolts in some of these holes where the pedal assembly is going to go, just to hold everything nice and firm, because I don't plan on putting any more rivets in here because there's plenty of other stuff to capture that panel and hold it firm against the structure of the chassis. So I'm just going to do it that way. And then probably what I'll do after that is I'll work on fitting all of our hardware. So our master cylinders, our brake switch, our clutch switch, and then I'm actually going to disassemble this entire quadrant, and I'm going to take my angle grinder with a flap wheel. I'm going to take the sharp edge on both sides of this quadrant, and I'm going to round them over so it's nice and smooth. So we're going to be less apt to fray our cable over time than if we just left it with the raw sharp edge that it has now. So I will bring you all back when probably I'm fitting that and getting ready to place it on for the final time. All right, Iron Butterfly. I swear to God, that song's about a half hour long. Inagata Davida. It just won't end. It's the end of the day. I didn't pick up the camera the entire day. I just wanted to get stuff done. And as I'm preparing to take panels to the powder coater, I want to make sure that I have all the panels that I need right now all taken to powder coat at once. And I found another one today. And, you know, I'm going to let you guys know you have to look in every box. Happens to me too. I forgot that we needed the panel from the fuse box, which is in the Ron Francis harness, chassis harness box. So I pulled that out this morning. I actually sent myself a text last night so I wouldn't forget it today. And I got it mocked up in the car. I still got to do a little trimming and fitting to it because it actually interferes with one of the bolts on the pedal assembly. So I'll probably do that tomorrow evening, and then that should be the last of our panels that need to go in for powder coating right now. We're still going to have some for the front end nose aluminum. We're going to make a one-piece nose aluminum, and we've got the competition front air dam. But we're going to wait on those until way later in the build, like while the car's away for paint, because I don't want to fit those with them powder coated already, because they're most likely going to have to be trimmed and fit and everything else. So here's where I'm at. I got the aforementioned panel in. It's right here. So if I bring you in on this side, you can see that that panel is in place with a couple of clecos here, here, and down the side. And then at the very end, there's a cutout. I used a hole saw to make a cutout for the bolt that goes in from the bottom up to hold the front legs of the pedal assembly. So, as you can see, I got the entire pedal assembly put in the car. I've got the micro switch for the clutch, and I've got it adjusted so that at full depression, I guess, it's not going to break the switch. You've got to be careful that you don't push this too far forward and then send your clutch arm into it and break the switch, because it's just plastic. Went ahead and ground all of the inside portion of the clutch quadrant so that it is rounded. It's nice and smooth now. It's not going to cut your hand. So if it doesn't cut your hand, then obviously it's not going to cut the clutch cable. Then I went ahead and I put our new clutch cable adjuster in, and I went so far as to drill and tap a mounting hole that actually holds the base in. So if I take this out, you'll see I've got a button head. I think this is a 1032. So I drilled and tapped a hole in the chassis for that to go in. I put a drop of Loctite on that, and it's all ready to go. So we should be able to get our clutch cable in when we get to that point. The masters, I didn't tighten either of the fittings that go in to feed those because I'm not sure how I'm going to come out of them. The default, is just to put them in face up, but I think I may have each of them turned to the side to not have to make the brake fluid go up and over and down, because sometimes that'll create a air pocket in there, which is hard to get out when you're bleeding it. So I'm going to try to lessen those areas that air could get caught in the lines. So that's all in. And I think, other than a couple of parts that we got, I think that's going to do it for tonight. We got our horn. This is the horn that we always use with these. It's a mini air horn. It's all one piece, and so it's a air horn that's self-contained. There's no hoses, no anything else. It just bolts onto the car, and you hook up the wires, and you're done. It sounds like an English sports car, which is what the Cobra is based on. And so this is what I have on Slytherin. I think we've put one of these on just about every car that we've done. And then I got a new gasket donut for the fuel tank. This is the actual piece from Ford. So that's the one we're going to use. We're going to take that one and we're going to throw it in the garbage because that's where it belongs. Actually, this one does fit a little bit better than the one that we got for the 25th anniversary car, but I still don't trust it. So we're going to use the Ford unit. Some of the parts that I got in earlier, I went ahead and put the return fitting on the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator so it won't get lost. But I think that's going to wrap things up for tonight. And then we'll see what I've got in store for myself tomorrow. But I will catch up with all of you tomorrow. Metallica, Nothing Else Matters. It's the next night. And what I came out to do in the shop when I got home from work isn't even close to what I ended up doing. So I brought the bag for the emergency brake handle down because honestly I figured, you know what, I'll just do some busy work. I'll grab the emergency brake handle and I'll put it together. I didn't get to that. I have a side project going that you guys will see later. But in the process of that, since I was working on the foot box last night, I figured I might as well see if I can get the bracket for the Coyote pedal. Flashlight. So the bracket for the Coyote pedal. So that's right. You guys see that? Trying to get the light in here so it's not super bright. Anyway, so the Coyote pedal mounts right there, and then there's another bolt up there. And so what I figured I'd do, since that has to be powder coated too, and I'm trying to get all the panels and all the brackets and everything else that I need to have powder coated all ready. And so with all the trouble that we went through on the 25th anniversary car, trying to get this stuff to fit, I figured I might as well get to it now rather than waiting until, I'm farther along. I've got the foot box sides on and everything else. Granted, the engine, I'm going to keep bringing this up, is in the way, and I just don't have anywhere to put it right now. But I was able to get in there without too much difficulty and get the bracket set up. Now, what I ended up doing, I'll show you when I pull the bracket all back out, because I've test fitted and everything works. So I wanted to make sure that we got full sweep of the steering wheel without the steering shaft making contact with that bracket or the Coyote pedal, the plastic part of the Coyote pedal. And so I'm good there. Now, I did have to modify the pedal. I'll pull that out. I'll show you what I did in order to modify it, because we did very similar modifications to the 25th anniversary car. I may be able to get a little bit more out of this one. I don't know. We were limited on what we could do on the 25th anniversary car because we had already got the sheet metal in. We'd already had the footbox side. And having not put the footbox side in yet, I might be able to push it out a little bit more towards the engine on the bottom and just give us just a skosh more room. But so I did that, and then the other thing that I did is I picked up some hardware. I like to make everything kind of uniform on the on at least on one panel face. So even though I used a black button head screw up here, it's contrast. So it's a silver, it's a silver clutch adjuster, but it's a black button head. And so on the panel here, we already had button head screws that were here for the steering bearing. And in the kit, they provide cap head screws that are black oxide. And they do tend to rust after a while, depending on your climate. But I found some of these button heads that are 3/8 by 1 inch button heads in another bag. And so I decided to use those on this corner and this corner of the footbox, and I was just missing 2 more. So I stopped at the hardware store this afternoon, and I picked up a couple more of those. I actually bought a couple more than I needed, and so I'll have those in the toolbox the next time I need some. And then over here in the kit, they provide a 1/4 by 20. It's again, it's stainless, but it's not a button head. It's more of a like a flat head. I'll show you the difference. So where is it? I had one right here. So you can see that this one has, it's a cap, not a cap head. It's a button head, but yet it has this flat flange on the outside. And so, it looks fine, but I kind of wanted all of this stuff to match. Again, my OCD gets the best of me sometimes. And so since I had a bunch of these, I decided to go up one size. This is a 5/16, and all this is just put together with standard, coarse thread nuts right now. So everything's, it's tight, but it's not like super tight. Now I didn't put any lock nuts on anything. So all these will get the proper hardware that they're supposed to when I assemble this for the final time. But I wanted to get this all pre-fit so that when I go to put this in after the piece is powder coated, I'm not going to have to deal with farting around and getting anything to fit. I know everything's going to fit right now. So if you look up here, there are some things that we're not going to powder coat. Like this bracket right here for the clutch switch, I'm not going to powder coat that. You can't see it. I'm not going to powder coat the clutch quadrant. It just doesn't make sense. So stuff like that I'm not going to worry about. But other things like this bracket, like if you were to look in through here, you can see the bottom of that bracket right here. And so I would just as soon powder coat that whole bracket and be done with it. Now, like I said, we did manage to get, I think, a little more room out of our pedal, but not a lot. You can see with the pedals that are on there, that accelerator pedal is awfully close to that brake pedal. Now, I have not done the modification to the bottom of the pedal to cut it off shorter or to flip it over. I'm going to see how our new pedal pads fit. Now, we did order pedal pads for this, just like the ones that we did on the 25th anniversary car. They are the AC Cobra style pedal pads from Mk4. And so we're going to fit those to the brake and the clutch pedals, and then we're going to do the same thing we did on the 25th anniversary car on this pedal here. I think what I may try to do on this one is I'm going to try to shave the actual plastic part of the backer down a little bit so we can get that that pedal to move this way towards the foot box and try to get the maximum amount of room in there as we can. Like I said, we couldn't do that on the 25th anniversary car because the sheet metal was already in. I put that in before we modified that pedal, and so we were only able to push it over, as much as we were. That's it. With this one, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to really work on getting the bottom of this panel that goes in here pushed over as far towards the engine as I can. My only limitation is going to be this bar right here, which I think we can work around. But so that's what I'm doing tonight. Let me get that all apart, and I'll show you what I did to the bracket if you're doing a Coyote in order to make it fit, because I ended up drilling a new hole on the bottom, and we actually moved the whole Coyote brake pedal assembly up about a ½ inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch, and I'll tell you, it makes all the difference in the world. Now, I don't know how easy the connector for the plug for the ECU is going to go into the pedal, but I'll deal with that when I get to there. If I have to relieve some of the area for the footbox bracket or the brake pedal bracket in order to get it fit, I will, because I thought that this was more important, and so I wanted to make sure we got as much room in there for big feet as I possibly could. So let me get that bracket taken out and the accelerator taken out, and I'll bring you back and I'll show you what I did to the bracket. All right, so here's the deal. You're gonna have to trim the accelerator pedal far more than Factory 5 tells you in the assembly manual. You have to trim so much off of this thing in order to get it to fit, it's ridiculous. So basically what I did is I took the profile of the bracket and I just used that as my guide to trim the plastic on this side. And you can see it's right at the side of the bracket. Now on this side, you can trim it according to what Factory 5 says. I don't remember, I'd have to look at the manual right now to see. I don't know if they have you cutting this straight or not, because to me, this looks like all just needless plastic right here to make this cut straight. But I left it, I just kind of trimmed it on the contour of the tab that was there, and done. And then on the bottom, of course, they tell you to trim the metal off. And so I'm going to still go in here. I'm going to grind this a little bit smoother. But I just use a cutoff wheel for this entire thing. I did it in little sections so I could get it close. And then I went after it with a file to smooth it out, and done. Now, what I did on the bracket here, this bracket used to be at a 90-degree angle here and a 90-degree angle here. And what I did is I put it in the brake and I bent this a little bit more, probably another 7 to 10 degrees, and the same thing to here. And what this does is it pushes the front of the bracket up. And so what I had to do here at the bottom is I had to re-drill this hole inside the foot box. And so you're going to see, where the hell is my flashlight? Right here. You're going to see that I've got a second hole right there on top of the old one. And that allowed me to move that thing up and clear this bar a little bit better. And I was able to get that thing to go right against this bar right here. And then at the top, I took the bracket and I ovaled out the hole. We did this the same way on the 25th anniversary car. So this bracket would move a little bit side to side, and we could fine tune it so that we could lean it over as far as we could and still not hit the steering shaft. But what that does, just moving this thing over maybe 1/8 of an inch at the top, moves the bottom of this pedal over quite a bit. And so we were able to gain a little bit of space in the 25th anniversary car. And so I did the same thing here, but I exaggerated it even more, because I figured I'm going to do everything I can to get that panel on the bottom to move as far over towards the engine as I possibly can and get as much room inside that foot box so that hopefully somebody like me, or the owner for that matter, will be able to get their big, wide freaking feet in there and drive the thing. I've taken the 25th anniversary car out a couple of times since it seems to be stuck here until we get a weather pattern that's a little bit more favorable. And so I've actually run it out of gas. I've got to go pick up gas for it. But I have to drive that in my socks because there's just no room for my big feet in that pedal area. So, like I said, I'm doing everything I can in order to get as much room out of this one as I possibly can. And we learned a lot of lessons when we did the one in the 25th anniversary car. And I think we got just about as much room out of that one as we could, given how I initially put the panels in. So take that for what it's worth. It's getting late. I'm going in. I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. All right, Rage Against the Machine. Bulls on parade. It is the next day, everybody. I have spent the last well, 2 or 3 hours, clearing drains around the outside of the shop here in preparation for our next storm, which is supposed to be here tonight and last for the next 2 days. So let's hope it drops some serious rain to replenish all of the reservoirs down here in Southern California. But let's hope it's not too bad that it floods the shop again. I wanted a good spot to end the video, and so I think this is probably going to be it. I've got all the panels and brackets, I think, now assembled and ready to go to powder coat. I am waiting for one more item that the car owner ordered for the car, which is a rear sway bar, and I believe it's coming unpowder coated. So I want to verify that when it shows up, and if it's not powder coated, we're going to send it in and we're going to have it powder coated as well. But before I let you all go, I saw on one of the Factory 5 forums this week a thread about the Coyote surge tank. And I just happened to be looking for the part number for the Moroso surge tank that a lot of people use for these Coyote installs on the Factory 5 Roadsters and also on the Type 65 coupes. And in my search, granted I was just looking for the part number for the Moroso one, I stumbled upon another one made by a different company, UPR. If you're in the Mustang world, you may know UPR. They sell a lot of Fox body Mustang stuff, suspension components and stuff like that. But I clicked on the link, and I will say, after receiving the part, I'm happily surprised. That to me, I can't tell a difference in the quality. I mean, time will tell between this and the Moroso one that we've been using. So we've used the Moroso one on 2 or 3 builds. But this one from UPR, now keep in mind the car owner wanted this one powder coated this color. It comes in 2 options. It comes in a satin aluminum finish, and it comes in a gloss black powder coated finish. He chose the black powder coated. And so if you look at this one, not only is it the tank with all of the factory style outlets on it, including the one on the bottom here, and excuse the fingerprints, those are all my fingerprints. Also has the one to the front of the motor down here. But this one also came with a pressure cap. Now, if you know any of these other brands, the Moroso in particular, you supply your own cap, which is another $20 item if you want the Ford, what is it? The FOMOCO brand, the Ford cap for this. So I thought, you know, this is a pretty good deal. And then here's the best part. This one was $149. Now, I don't know what shipping costs, because this was ordered directly from UPR. So, you know, if you're, you know, buying it on Amazon or eBay or whatever, and you're getting free shipping, that you know, you got to consider that in the price of this. But $149 versus $220 for the Moroso. I mean, that's a lot of shipping. So, I don't know. We're going to try this one out. By looking at it, like I said, I can't tell a difference in the quality of it, but then again, it's powder coated. But it seems like a pretty good unit. So, we're going to install that on this one. We're going to install it the same way that we installed the one on the 25th anniversary car. But there you go. So, I figured I'd give you guys all an alternative if you're doing one of these with a Coyote to a much more budget-friendly expansion tank. So with that, if you are enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, comment if you like. We'll see you guys all next time. Have a great day.